as soon as someone says cancer, that's it. It's a death sentence. And on TV, that's all you see. You don't see the people with cancer that are still healthy and living normal sort of thing. You just see the really, really sick people. So I was like, that's it. Like, that's me done at 23. And I was like, I'm not ready to die. Like, I've got a whole life ahead of me. I don't know, I just suddenly stopped crying. I was like, no, like, I'm putting my foot down. Like, I'm not letting this take my life when I'm not ready to go yet.
Hello and welcome to the Thrive Against Cancer podcast, where we give a voice to the cancer community. My name is Toby Freeman, founder and CEO of the Robin Cancer Trust, cancer advocate and your host. Every episode we will be hosting open and honest conversations with people affected by cancer, whether personally, as a family member, clinician or charities and organisations. We will be talking to the cancer community about the cancer community and all the things that are important to you. Our guest today has dedicated herself to raising awareness of lesser-known cancer symptoms in young people after she was diagnosed with ovarian cancer at just 23. She's told her story in numerous regional and national media outlets, and we're so grateful that she's joining us today. Our guest today is Emma Colledge. Emma, hello.
So,
So grateful you're here. Really glad that we've got you on the podcast. Thank you so much for your time.
you're more than welcome.
So I just gave the game away a little bit by telling everyone what you were diagnosed with at just 23. But should we dive right in all the way back to the beginning of your diagnosis and how that came about?
Yeah. So I think it probably started, this is probably just me, like, thinking too deep. Like, when I was 14, I had ovarian cysts, and the hospital just sort of like, it'll come and go with your periods, it's fine. I was like, okay, nothing more of it. They didn't cause us any pain or anything back then. And then it was February 2022, I started getting bloated. But again, like, I think doctors just dismiss females when they go with stomach pain because they always think they're just going to say it's period pain, it's IBS, it's endometriosis. And I was like, I'm not bothering with them at the minute because I can manage it. It's not causing any issues to myself. And I just started a new job as a prison officer. So I had 8 weeks of training, and 2 weeks that was the physical training where you do your control and restraint. And it was then I was like, obviously, you're fighting around, you're flapping everywhere, you're on the floor, you're pinning people down. I was like, it feels like I have a watermelon in my stomach. And I was like, am I just now overthinking it and now just thinking, yeah, there's something in there and it's not? So at first I thought, well, pregnant, like, I'm a female, like, it can happen. So I was like, I'll do some pregnancy tests, all negative. I was like, well, it's not that. Left it. And it was towards the end of the training. I needed to go to the toilet more just for a wee. Like, I'd get up 3 or 4 times a night. And at the time, again, I just didn't think anything of it. I thought, oh, I'm just drinking more with doing more activity with work, or I'm eating really salty food. So, like I say, again, I just didn't put nothing to it. And then it got to like one point, I was like, I'm gonna have to now go and get my trousers exchanged because they were really tight and it was so uncomfortable sitting there. And then I was like, right, maybe I should make a doctor's appointment because I've given it since February now. We're in the May time. Something hasn't got better. It's probably just got worse. And I went to the doctors and they were absolutely useless. She just went, oh, you're pregnant? I was like, you can't just say I'm pregnant without without doing anything. Then she said, just go home and buy a clear blue pregnancy test because they're the better ones. And I'll just refer you for a scan, like an ultrasound. So I was like, all right, no bother then. Like, I've come for you for help and you've just dismissed us. I thought I can't be bothered. But I knew the scan wouldn't happen straight away with it. The NHS waiting times, I just knew I wasn't going to be top priority. So then it got to the August, and I'm an Army Cadet Force instructor, and we always go away for 2 weeks. And I think it was like the week before, like, I'd wake up and have a mouthful of food, and that was me done for the day. I was just so full. And like, I just kept nearly being sick. I was never like properly sick, but just a feeling. And I was like, I can't go away for 2 weeks feeling this poorly. But at the time, I couldn't get a doctor's appointment. I was like, right, I'll go to the walk-in centre to see if they could, because our walk-in centre does like ultrasound. So I thought, oh, maybe they can just get it straight into that. And they didn't. They just said, I don't understand why your stomach's so big and like hard. And I said, well, I don't know, but I did go to the doctors. And she said I was pregnant, and they confirmed me there and then that I wasn't. So I was like, I knew I wasn't. I was thinking, what is it? And then I kept saying to my mum, it'll be an ovarian cyst. Like, I seen it all over TikTok. It looks the exact same. That's what it's gonna be. And she was like, oh, I don't know. When the walk-in centre just gave me anti-sickness and said, oh, we'll get in touch with your doctors to get an appointment. So I went away for the 2 weeks. Lived life as normal. I mean, I was really tired, but that could just be because I'm doing so much at a camp.
Mm.
And I had a doctor's appointment 3 days after. So I thought, well, there's nothing I can do. The doctor's appointment's not going to move forward. And then I went and he was like, all right, okay. Like I explained everything, what's happened since February. I also previously explained that I have had ovarian cysts before, thinking that I just had an ovarian cyst. And he was like, well, I'll put you on the 2 week gynae route anyway, and we'll get urgent bloods. But obviously, if you do get pain, just go straight to hospital because it's going to be seen quicker. So I had like my bloods, and I think it was like a couple of days later. I was like, oh, I'm really getting pain. But it was like where my appendix was. And I thought, well, maybe it is my appendix. Like, I don't know. So I went to the out of hours, and she was like, oh, I want to admit you tonight, but the surgical registrar won't. So just come back in the morning. I was like, right, okay. And then I was in A&E at like 2 hours. And straight away, they were like, right, we've bypassed you through because obviously you need the scan. And that's when they said, oh, you've got a 30 centimetre ovarian cyst. And I was like, I don't know, I felt so like I told you so, like I knew something, I knew I wasn't pregnant. And when she said, like, and then she was like, when I was getting this ultrasound, she was just like, oh, have you had back pain? I was like, yeah. She went, well, yeah, because the cyst's crushing your major nerves in your stomach and your kidneys. And I was like, that makes sense. So, like, my body thought it was pregnant and it wasn't, it was the cyst. So at first it was just like, yeah, we'll admit you in because you need obviously the cyst removed. And then they'll do further scans next day, which is when they done the CT scan. Um, and she came in the room because obviously you have to wait a couple of hours after. And she went, oh, can anyone come in? And I was like, oh, yeah, like my mum. She went, oh, there's just been some complications. Me being just naive, I was like, oh, the cyst's been that big. It's obviously just got wrapped round other organs. Thinking, I mean, it probably could never happen, but in my head, that's what had happened. And my mum was like, no, they're going to say you got cancer. I said, they won't. I said, it's ovarian cancer is not common in someone that's 23. It's never going to happen. And obviously they did. They were like, we're really sorry, it's ovarian cancer. And I was like, oh my God, like, am I going to die? That was the first question I said, because I think as soon as someone says cancer, that's it. It's a death sentence. And on TV, that's all you see. You don't see the people with cancer that are still healthy and living normal sort of thing. You just see the really, really sick people. So I was like, that's it. Like, that's me done at 23. And I was like, I'm not ready to die. Like, I've got a whole life ahead of me. And then the next question I said, am I going to lose my hair? And they were like, well, we can't say yes or no because obviously we don't know what treatment now you're going to have. I was like, that's fair enough. And then like, I don't know, I just suddenly stopped crying. I was like, no, like, I'm putting my foot down. Like, I'm not letting this take my life when I'm not ready to go yet. So then I started like reassuring everyone. I started reassuring the nurses, and they were like obviously they were fine, but I was like, I don't know, I think I just turned into like, I flipped it around and I was like, no, me sitting crying and being upset can't help what's happened. It's in the past now. I've been diagnosed and it's not going to help us in the future. But what's going to help is if now I raise this awareness, because I never ever heard of ovarian cancer being in young people. It was always you're over 50s, you're over 65. So I was like, no, there's got to be other people my age that has this. And at first, nothing. I didn't hear nothing. And then it was my friend. She was like, look, like, I think you should set up a Facebook page, blog your journey. It'll help you through your diagnosis, speaking to people, so it's off your chest. And I was like, you know what? I said, that's a good idea. And she went, me and you'll have access so I can update it when you're having surgery and stuff, and we can keep everyone updated. I was like, that's a really good idea. I really like that. And I think after the first couple of days, that was it. I had loads of people flooding in my inboxes, like from Cornwall, from Scotland, and like people's husbands were like messaging us and they were like, oh my God, like my wife's going through this, I'm going through this, like I know exactly how you feel. And I found it was a lot of young people, like I'd say 30 and below were coming to us. And I was like, wow, it's more common than I think it was. But because it's not out there, I didn't know about it. Like
Yeah.
and my sister kept saying to me, I think you've got cancer. I went, you haven't, man. I said, I haven't. And then obviously she came and seen it. She went, well, I've told you so. And I was like, I eat my words back. I said, but that ain't, I said, we'll keep arguing about this. I said, because I'm not convinced. And I don't know, like, even today, like, after everything, like, I don't still believe I had cancer. I mean, obviously I know I did, but I'm still in like that disbelief because it went so quick and everything's happened so quick. Because I never felt poorly as such. Yes, I felt the sick and I had the poorly stomach, but that was it. Like I was still my normal self. I was still like doing all my cadet stuff. I was still like jumping off cliffs, mountain biking, paddleboarding. None of it stopped us to the point where I thought I can't do this. And I think that's what got us because like I always thought people with cancer are really poorly and like really sick and can't do anything. They're in bed all the time. But I was the complete opposite. Like I wanted to go back to work and it was my work that said no because obviously the job I did, you couldn't go back, which it makes sense. But like after my second surgery, I wanted to go back in the work in November and they were like, no, like you need to heal. And I was like, I'm ready. I'm raring to go. So I had my first surgery on the 22nd of September, which is my boyfriend's birthday. So I screwed that up for him. And
It's
that
not
was
about him, Emma.
That's what he said. I had the first surgery, so that was to remove the one ovary and the cyst that was attached. And the full plan was that we both agreed that that's all that's going to happen. We weren't going to do a full hysterectomy because we wanted just to have a look inside and get the cyst out, which was fine. We all agreed on that. But then obviously the next day they were like, look, like we've booked you back in for surgery in 2 weeks' time. Like you need a full hysterectomy, your other ovaries abnormal. And she said it's literally like someone spilt a bag of rice in you. And that's the cancer, like the little grains of rice when it's just all over. I was like, okay, like that's fine. There's
So
nothing I can do.
where exactly was it? Sorry, I don't want to interrupt too much because you're in the flow.
No, it's okay.
So you had the cyst out and they took an ovary out as well. And then...
Yeah, so that the 30 centimeter cyst was attached to one ovary. So obviously they removed that in the first surgery and then like they had a little look around to see what they would do next. And then obviously they found it on my bladder, bowel, appendix, diaphragm, liver, spleen, stomach lining.
That's quite a lot, Emma. That must have been a big thing
quite far.
Yeah. So you've gone in to have a cyst removed and the next day you're told it's a lot. Yeah.
And at the time, and I said, has it spread? Because at this time, I didn't know I was stage 3C. I didn't find out until I got a letter after the second surgery. They just never mentioned it, and I just didn't want to ask because I know I'd go down a rabbit hole of Googling. And then obviously once I found out it was stage 3C, I was wondering, like, has it just spread naturally that far because of how advanced it was? Or was it because the cyst was that big? Has it been attached to the cyst? And as that's grown, obviously it would have connected to things. Has it grown that way, sort of thing? So I had the cyst and the ovary removed for the first one. And then obviously the next day they came around and they were like, you're going to have a full hysterectomy, but we need to have a chat about it because it's a really big decision for someone that's 23. I was like, okay, that's fine. And then obviously I just recovered in hospital for a week. And then I got a week out and then I had to come back in, which was my sister's birthday. I was like, you should really screw me over with these surgery dates. So she came, and obviously she dropped us off on that on her birthday. And then on that surgery, it was 9.5 hours. And we didn't know it was going to be 9.5 hours. We just thought it would be a couple of hours. So obviously like, everyone was panicking back home, me oblivious to everything what they were going through. So that was 9.5 hours. And they literally said, they opened me up like a book, took every organ out. It got lasered off. Everything got a full clean inside and we put it all back in, basically.
A nice spring clean for you, I suppose.
Yeah, perfect, clean body. May as well start off properly.
Doctors have a way of like describing things, don't they?
Yeah. And then obviously they had to remove some of my bowel, so they did have to give me a temporary stroma, which they honestly openly said before, we really will try and avoid it because of your age, but if we have to, we have to. I said, I get it, like you've got to do what's best for me. So as soon as I opened my eyes in recovery, he came running over. He's like, I'm really, really sorry, but we've had to give you a stroma, but it is temporary. And that's all I can remember from the recovery. I was like, oh my God, I've got a stoma. I'm fuming, but it's life. Like, it kept us alive. Do you know what I mean? It's worth it. Um, I went into HDU for 5 days, and then I was on a ward for 2 weeks. And that was really hard, the second surgery. I think just with coping, I think as soon as I woke up, the menopause just hit us so bad. And I, you obviously hear about the menopause, but I think with it being surgical, like one day I was fine, and the next day that was it. It was just hitting us, and I was like, oh my God, I can't. Like, I'm in pain. I've just had a 9.5 hour surgery, but now we're getting menopause coming at us, and I was thinking I was getting really ratty. And obviously, like, as soon as people, like, my mum kept, like, on the hospital bed, she was, like, leaning over and laughing, and it was shaking the bed. And I was like, oh my God, please stop. I was like, you literally, like, I had cannulas in my neck and everything. I had a feeding tube. And I was like, I know you're trying to keep us happy, but you're shaking the bed, and my full body's shaking. And I was like, look, I'm really hot. And they give us, like, an epidural for that second surgery. Um, but she was like, it's 3 out of 5 patients, it works. Obviously, mine didn't work. So they constantly, every hour, had to do like an ice cube test on my back, where they'd run an ice cube up and down to see if I could feel it. And every time I could feel it. So I was just constantly in pain. So in the end, they started putting like a morphine pump into us so the pain could be under control. And then I got eventually moved out of there, which was better because it was awful in HDU. And then I just recovered on the ward, and it got to the point, and they were like, I just said, look, I want to go home. Like, I know I'll recover 10 times better. I was like, I'm getting kept awake at night by other people on the ward that are also in pain. Like, and they were like, yeah, but we need you to be, how to know, like, to look after your stomach properly before we can send you home. Which I said, it makes sense. I was like, well, if you send the nurses round, like, I'll clean it. Because at first, I just didn't want to look at it. I didn't want to associate with it. I just tried to block that part out. But I was like, if I need to do this to go home, bring them in now and I'll do it. So I did all that, and then obviously, like, you have like the physios come round. Like, the next day I was up walking, and they were like, we never have people walking that quick. And I was like, yeah, but I want to go home. Like, this is how desperate I am. And like, I had a bad back, but everyone's like, that could be the epidural. And I was like, it could be. But hospital beds just aren't the one. And when you've been in one for nearly 2 weeks, I was like, I just want to go home and just chill. So in the end, he did just let us go home, because I was like, I'm not progressing anymore in hospital. I'm not eating the food because it was awful. Like, I was just getting down a rabbit hole, and I was like, for me to feel better and eat properly, it's better for me to be at home, which we all agreed. And the consultant said, look, you've got an open ward access. If you do want to come back, you can come back. And that was pretty much it for the surgeries. And then obviously at the time after surgery, they said, "Oh, we've got rid of all visible cancer. It's great. It's low grade. It's not fast grown. If it is going to come back, it is just going to come back slowly." And at the time, they said, "Oh no, we won't do chemo. We'll just give you a hormone blocker to stop the estrogen, because it was estrogen positive." I was like, "All right, that's great. That's exactly what I want to hear. I don't want chemo." But then they still spoke to a chemo doctor regardless. And that's when she rang. She's like, "We think the best option is chemo." And I was like, okay, that's not what I wanted, but I want you to explain more. And she did honestly say, if I don't want to do it, I don't have to. Like, it's completely my choice. But I said to her, if you were in my position, what would you do? Without knowing the doctor's background, what would you do? And she was like, well, I'd do it because it's a preventative. So if it's going to come back, we're now preventing it by putting that through. And I was like, okay, so if that's got a higher chance of it coming, like, stopping it back, then you moving us over here. And she was like, oh, it's just hair, and I said, I know it's just hair, but that was my identity. I had long blonde hair, and I just had it all done. And I was like, you've just stripped us from having a bit of kids. Like, I've been in menopause, and now you want us to lose my hair. I was like, yes, to someone it's just hair and it will grow back. But at that time, that was invalid. I was like, that's not the point. Like, it's awful. And then I know at chemo, obviously, again, you see on telly, and I was like, oh my God, I'm going to be sat in a room with all these old grannies, because, like, it was an ovarian cancer. It's not really common for like a young person to have. I think, and I'm sitting there in the dark, not being able to talk, like, I'm going to lose my hair. And I was just going down this really negative route of chemo, and I was like, and I don't want to think negative about it, but everything you see on telly is quite negative. And I was like, and I don't want to feel ill. I don't want to be being sick in front of everyone. And then that's when they said, no, because you got diagnosed when you were under 24, you can go with the Teenage Cancer Trust. And I was like, well, I've never heard of them, but send them my way. Like, I'm open to speak to anyone, which they gave my number to one of the nurses, and she got in touch, and they were lovely. And they're like, we'll come out and see, yeah, we'll, like, so they came to my house and they bought me loads of like crafts and things to do. And then they were honestly, they were so nice. And I remember them coming, and I said, "Mum, look out the window at the old." I don't know what. Not that I've got nothing against old people. I just feel like I just don't click with them, and I feel like they're very stuck in there. Like back in my day, you just got on with it. Like, and I was like, I don't want an old nurse. Like, not horribly, but I just don't. So when I seen two young women, I was like, thank the Lord, I can have a bit of banter with them. Like we can just click, and we did straight away. And I was like, at first, and they was, to be fair, at first they were saying you'll have to have it at the Queen Elizabeth, and I was like, no, like if I have to have it there, I don't want it. I was like, can I not have it with you guys at the Freeman? And she went, oh, well, we can 100% ask if that's what you want. I said, aha. I said, if I want it, I want to have it with people my age. So luckily she rang me. I think she texted us the next day saying, oh, we've got in touch. Yes, you allowed it here. You'll have to come up to the clinic to see us all beforehand. And I said, that's fine. I don't mind traveling. Um, and then it was since then, but I don't know, like, even the atmosphere just walking onto the Teenage Cancer Trust ward was just completely different to a normal ward. And like, I know you've got the people that are really, really sick that are inpatients there. So it was quite like, I felt a bit awkward at first thinking, I don't feel poorly. And I know there's people in these rooms that are really suffering with chemo side effects. And I said, no, I said, I feel guilty being all happy and loud because I feel okay, even though like I'm not, but I did. And she was like, don't, like, it's fine. They come out, they play all their games, to do big quizzes together. I was like, okay. I was like, as long as like I had to like they had to tell me not to feel guilty for it.
Yeah.
And like the first day, like I met loads of friends there, and I still talk to these friends now. Like we all still going through it together. We always message just to see how everyone's doing. But like I don't know, the teenage cancer, it was so good. Like we could always have someone with you. They had like pizza parties. We have Domino's pizzas every month. We did a quiz every month. I did the feel good makeup workshop and skincare. So like we went to the Maggie Centre and we had pizza again. We got all this makeup donated and we all got taught how to do makeup and stuff. And then they just, even now, like every week they'll text us like, do you want to come to this social event? Do you want to do this with us? Do you want to we're going away, or there's a pizza thing, do you want to come to brunch? Unfortunately, like, I'm working like Monday to Friday, so I always miss these stuff, but it's still nice that you're still included in everything,
Yeah.
like even now. And I've just had to have my toenails removed, right? I know this sounds disgusting, but I had to get in touch with the Teenage Cancer Trust to see if they could send us a letter to say I'm allowed my treatment. And within the next day, the letter was at home. Like, it's just, you just have the number. And I said, the first time they kept ringing us and I kept ignoring them because I hated speaking on the phone. And then she texts in, why did you ignore me? I said, because I don't like talking on the phone. And she's like, okay, we can do it by text. I went, oh, can you? She went, yeah, we can just text each other. I went, oh, great. So then, I don't know, it's just that aspect as well. Like,
Yeah.
I know a lot of young people don't like talking on the phone. So for them to just say, oh, yeah, we can text you, that's such a big relief as well because you're thinking, I used to dread phone calls. I don't anymore. But at the time, I was like, nah, I'd rather just not speak to them. But it's, I don't know, they are really amazing people at the Teenage Cancer Trust.
Couldn't agree more. Absolutely love Teenage Cancer
Yeah.
Trust and everything that they do, and especially all
Yeah.
the frontline staff.
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot, Emma. That's just so.
I talk really quick though, so I don't know.
You do talk quick. It's amazing. No, you are. It's brilliant, and it's just trying to digest how much, cause not just that you're moving fast in your story, but everything moved so fast for you.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it's one thing after another, and actually, it's really interesting that you said almost don't feel like it happened. You know,
Yeah. Uh-huh.
is it? So, you know,
Even now, like my sister, like today, I had like another national press get in touch, and Jess, like my sister Jess, she was like, "What happened? Like, how many rounds of chemo?" She went, "Everything went so quick. she can't remember. And I said, I know. And even now, like, I still, like you said earlier, I get dates mixed up because things happen so quick. I can't remember if I was 22 or 23,
Yeah.
if it happened in 22 or 23. And I'm like, because it happened within like 6 months, it was done and dusted, boxed away. And I'm just like, like you said, it's just everything happened really, really quick for us.
So if we could, and we still haven't got to chemo. We obviously need to talk about your chemo and how that affected you. But going all the way back to the beginning, do you think your age, and I think I know the answer to this, played a massive part in that huge delay in your diagnosis? Like there was a 6-month period where you're told, "Oh, you're pregnant," which is sort of seemingly an insane thing just to say to someone. Like you wouldn't have had a pregnancy test.
Yeah.
And then all of these delays, just, IBS, endometritis. Yeah. Was anyone even looking into other things as you were going through that? Just dismissed because you're young?
They literally said, you're pregnant, we'll refer you for a scan. That was it. Not like, oh, we'll do some more tests and investigate. That was just their decision. So obviously, I think I touched, like, with being a young female, to be fair, cancer wouldn't probably come under their radar. I think of that, especially with ovarian cancer being like over 50, gone through the menopause. Like I probably wasn't ticking the checklist that they had to tick.
But also, interestingly, that your sister was saying it's probably this, and you were internalizing that as well from what you're finding on the internet. Not enough information out there going, well, young people can get this, it's just rare, It's that compounding effect that leads to a later stage 3C diagnosis.
Yeah, like if they picked that up in the May, I could have chanced been like stage 2 or something. Probably wouldn't have had a full hysterectomy. Stuff like that's what annoys us. Like I could have literally been in such a different situation. Like, yes, luckily I'm thankful I'm still alive, I'm still all clear. But I could have been able to have kids if they just took me seriously in May and not making me then have to wait till September. Like that really annoys us.
Yeah, that's a really,
That's got taken away with like everything.
Yeah, and as much as you can have that gratitude for life, the resentment of the opportunities being taken away is, I literally can't imagine how difficult that must be. Sorry, I feel like I interrupted your flow. We were just trying to unpick everything in my mind. You also went through menopause. You went through surgery into surgery. Were you told about menopause instantly happening as a young person? Were you like, that happens so quickly for you? There's a week in between.
Yeah, so they did obviously mention menopause. That was touched. Like, obviously, when we discussed the hysterectomy, she did, like, my consultant did say you will obviously go into surgical menopause. But at the time,
but what does that mean? Did someone really explain what that actually the implications were?
Well, she did obviously explain, you're losing all your estrogen and everything, and your body is obviously going to be withdrawing, which, yeah, I could have probably Googled that and that probably could have told us. But I think at the time, because we didn't know how it was going to affect me and how bad it would affect me, we couldn't really cover that. And obviously, as soon as I got out, I was like, oh my God, I'm hot, I'm burning. And I didn't click on to think about the menopause, and I thought, have I now got an infection?
Of course.
With obviously having my spleen removed, I thought that's it, burning up and getting a temperature. I've now got an infection, which is just going to delay my process of healing. That was the first thing, and everyone was like, no, mate, it's just a hot flush. But obviously, I'd never experienced a hot flush before, so I didn't know that's what a hot flush was until this lovely nurse that I had literally said, oh, I'm going through menopause, I have a hot flush. And I said to her, can you just sit down and explain how it feels for you to have a hot flush? I said, because I don't know if I'm having hot flushes or if it's like me going crazy thinking now I've got an infection. And when she described it, I went, that's exactly how it feels. So now that makes sense. And I think for the first year, I was having about 20 to 25 hot flushes a day. It was really, really hard. And I couldn't cope. Like it was really, I couldn't sleep. It was really and then they were saying, oh, we'll give you HRT. I was like, great. I know loads of people said that works on like my Facebook page. And I had it for 4 days and they were like, look, we can't give you it. You're not allowed nothing with estrogen anymore. Yeah. It obviously can make the tumour come back. I was like, right, okay, we're cold turkey in this. We're just going to get through it. Like, it's going to be hard. but if nothing's going to help us, we're just going to have to grin and bear it and come out on the other side. And where now, I probably have about 2 or 3 hot flushes a day, which is literally nothing. So it's a benefit. I've got through the hardest part, I think, of the menopause. But then it's weird because people at work are like, oh, I'm just going through the menopause. I'm like, oh, hi, I know how you feel. And they're like, how?
Mm.
And I'm like, because I've been in menopause for 2 years now. You just don't expect me to come out with that because I'm 25. Like,
Yeah.
no one will be like, you don't understand. I'm like, yes, I do. I probably understand quicker than you did because you've gone gradually into the menopause. I
Yeah.
haven't. I've woke up from a 9-hour surgery straight into it.
Absolutely. And these sort of long-lasting effects that people don't really talk about, right? Because you go through your treatment, you have your chemo, hopefully you get to the end of your treatment, and then you're just Emma out in the world. You know,
Yeah.
you're better now. And you're like, well,
Yeah.
not only has all of that happened and the trauma of it, but I've also got physical things going on. And it's
Yeah,
like, no one
definitely.
expects that. I think that peer-to-peer conversation you had, I know that was with a, I assume, older nurse.
Yeah.
That's really important. And I think hopefully you can talk about how important being that peer-to-peer support on the Teenage Cancer Trust ward
Yeah.
whilst going through chemo. That must have been amazing to be around people, not just the staff, but the other young people who just get it, because it's different being young and having cancer.
Yeah, definitely. Like I met like loads of people, boys and girls. Obviously, we all had completely different cancers. None of us ever had the exact same, even the exact same story. None of us had, but we all knew exactly how each other felt and how everyone got through it differently. And like we'd just sit there like chilling, eating pizza and just talking just about life in general. And then like we'd just get on to things and like that's how they got through that. And I'm like, that's a really good way. I wish I thought to do that, but this is how I did it. And then I think, I don't know, we just sort of like combined the way we got through everything into like everyone's stories. Like someone could have suffered, like obviously no one went through the menopause, but some of them obviously got told, you know, their fertility is going to be like changed with obviously chemo. And I said, well, I understand that because now I can't have children, but that's not the least of our worries right now. Like, yes, of course, we obviously all want kids in the future, but right now, getting through this next day is probably the most important thing. And we will just have to really support on each other and just like constantly messaging each other. Like we've still got each other on Snapchat now. We all go to events together, so it's really good how it's the worst situation you make loads of new friends out of it. And I think that's what I really liked about the Teenage Cancer Trust. Like everyone is in your age range from 19 to 24. You're all there going through life as shit as it may be together. When yes, you should probably all be out clubbing and having fun. We're all sat in hospital watching Harry Potter. So it isn't all bad like what people think it is. And I think that's why I was so happy to go to a Teenage Cancer Trust ward. If that makes sense to you.
Absolutely. Yeah. Being around people who get it, that can share and communicate in the same way, because that's just a completely different experience than being on a ward. You know, you hear it quite often, just surrounded by elderly people drinking cups of tea and Horlicks. That's a very isolating experience. And organisations like Teenage Cancer Trust, who we absolutely love, obviously, do so good at just curating that experience and bringing people together. So glad you had that. Should we talk about your chemo and where that took you and how that was for you?
I was dreading it the day I went in. I was shaking, and obviously the night before, I had to take, I think it was 20 steroid tablets, and I forgot, and I didn't realize until I was there, and I went into a panic. I started crying, and one of the nurses came in and said, "What's happened?" I said, "I haven't took these steroids. I'm really panicking now. I can't go ahead," which is now going to delay every single chemo I have by another 3 weeks. I was like, I wanted to get over and done. And she was like, "It's fine. There's worse things that's happened. You can have your steroids before. Like, it's not an issue." Like, and I was like, "Oh my God, thank God." And I think I obviously that panicked me and my boyfriend was like, "Emma, just chill." I was like, "No, because now if I've done all this and I've come all this way, prepared myself for a full day of chemo, for me to have ruined it by forgetting, I wouldn't have lived with myself." Like, it's stupid, but because I want the chemo to be over and done with quick, that really, I was like, oh my God, I've delayed it now by another 3 weeks, because I had my chemo every 3 weeks for a full day.
Hmm.
So some days I was in hospital for 12 hours waiting for the chemo to come through, um, which was really bad. I think 1 out of 6, I was in and out by the afternoon, but all the others I was in there a good 12, 13 hours all day, just waiting around. Um, so I did my 6 rounds of chemo every 3 weeks. But like even like just during the days of chemo, like we did pottery painting, we did jigsaws, we played guitars, we did a massive quiz together. Um, we just did loads. We just sat and talked. We made TikToks. Me and this other young lad got asked to be bloggers, and we would blog like our little stories for them. We just loved it. We were all just talking and eating food and just trying to distract ourselves of the shit situation that we're in every day. So it was really nice just to feel human and feel normal again. And luckily, at the end, I only had to have obviously 6 rounds. But like some of my friends are still in now having chemo, like maintenance chemo, and they're still very much going through their journey. But I don't know, it was brutal. I hated it because for the first week after chemo, I just had no taste. And
Yeah.
obviously, I can't eat if I don't have taste, because what's the point in eating? You've got to get the nice taste. And everyone's like, well, you need to eat. And I think, I know I need to eat, but what's the point in eating? Because I can't taste nothing. So I was so in a rut, fuming that I couldn't taste anything. I think I was just putting vinegar and everything and I just couldn't taste it. And I was so annoyed. And then like the leg pains were really, really bad. And they're the only two things I actually suffered with in my chemo, was the no taste and leg pains. And I'll never forget, it was New Year's Eve because I started my chemo on the 28th of December,
Wow.
because I asked them to put it back because I didn't want to go through Christmas feeling rubbish. So they put it back to the 28th. And it was New Year's Eve, so obviously it was a couple of days after my first chemo. And the pains in my leg, I have never experienced anything like it. It was literally like a truck was just driving over us constantly. So I rang the ward and they're like, oh, come in and we'll give you some painkillers. And literally the clock struck 12 and I got handed the packet of codeine. And she was like, Happy New Year. And I was like, thanks.
Yeah.
Happy New Year. I was just so annoyed because it just I'm not a big drinker anyway, so I wouldn't have been like going out and drinking. But me and my boyfriend were going to drive to the lakes on New Year's Day. We were going to have a nice picnic, which we still did, but had to turn around because the pains were just so bad. And I was like, I've literally like ruined New Year. I'm starting the year still dwelling on 2023, what's just happened. I was like, this is just going to be another rubbish year because of how it started, which isn't true. But in that frame of mind, it was just, I don't want to ever do it again. And obviously, like, no one in my family or his family had experienced cancer and chemo. So, like, obviously, I'd have a hot bath every single day. And I'd just cry. And he's like, why are you crying? I said, because no one understands. And he's like, no, we do. I said, no, you don't. Because none of you have gone through the pains that I'm going through, sort of thing. And he's like, it's fine. I said, I know. And I know you're trying your hardest to obviously reassure us. But you can't say you understand because you haven't gone through it, which is where I would then go and speak to me friends that I made at chemo, and they'd be like, "Oh my God, I do this. I use magnesium flakes," and then they were that support when I knew my family and his family couldn't support us because they wouldn't understand what to do. So that's when like all the teenage cancer trust, their patients would come in and support us when I was having a really bad day from chemo. So it's a nice little community, to be fair. And they were really good.
What a network to have around you during that time, because you can be surrounded by love in your own bubble, but completely isolated in that moment just
Yeah,
because, there's no shared experience there. And to
yeah,
have,
definitely.
and I think it's one of the reasons we do the podcast is all the cancers are different, all the experiences are different, but there are those threads, that experience, that knowledge, that community that binds everything together.
Yeah,
People knowing that magnesium flakes are going to really ease that. Like, that's just something you may
you'd
never
never
stumble
think
upon.
of.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's just so invaluable. Are there any other organisations that you'd like to talk about that may have helped you during this period? We're an open platform.
definitely ovarian cancer action. They're my top two that I've been like, to be fair, I found Robin Cancer Trust first through a friend. So yous were actually the first. I was like, you know what, this is good because I'd never heard of it. It wasn't like a well-known charity to
Mm.
me, and I was like, I want to bring this up here, like to the north. So yous were the first ones. I was like, yes, like yous get it. Like yous have got people from all over that understand us. Then obviously I met the Teenage Cancer Trust nurses. They were amazing. I've like used to do a really good job behind the scenes where people
Mm.
don't say it. And then obviously it went on to ovarian cancer action. And I was like, you obviously just cover everything to do with low ovarian cancer. Well, obviously I had low grade, but you've got high grade, you've got different types of ovarian cancer, which
Hmm.
I didn't even realize there was such a thing until ovarian cancer action. And I just like how they always post on Facebook, like they're getting the lionesses involved, they're getting people that are really out there to get them to now promote their like the symptoms of ovarian cancer, which I really like. So I think they're the usually my top three that I'll always stand by no matter what.
That's amazing. And actually, some really cool news by the time this podcast goes out. We've just received some very cool funding from the National Lottery to expand up to the Northeast. So we will be in your
I've
area
seen
very
that on
soon.
Instagram. I was
Yeah.
buzzing.
So that's very exciting because we are by far the smallest charity out of those three. But hey, we're all doing amazing work out in the community, hopefully. So yeah, that's brilliant. Well, thank you for that. And I'm glad we could play a tiny part in supporting you through all of this. So you went through 6 chemos, and then at the end, I guess they do another set of scans. They check you all over.
Yes.
And where are you? Where are you today?
So I finished my chemo on the 12th of April, and I had a scan. It was the 27th of April, because I had an end of chemo and birthday party on the 29th of April. And then I got the result on the 9th of May, which said I was all clear.
Amazing.
And then now I just get every 3 months I get a blood test, which is my CA125.
Hmm.
And that's it. And now I'm on patient-led appointments. So if I want to go and speak to a nurse or my consultant, they will. And they'll always ring us once a year. And if I ever want to get scanned at any point, I just give them a text and they'll just do it. But I think what the process is now, they're trying to avoid you having so many scans because obviously the radiation, with obviously having so many previously, they don't want to keep doing it every 6 months because if it's unnecessary, what's the point?
Yeah.
So they just say like if I ever start getting some symptoms or I just want to reassure myself that everything's fine, they can book me a scan straight in, which is really reassuring and know that I'm never not gonna ever have a scan again.
Mm.
I think that's a really good way to do it now for me.
That's brilliant. I mean, fantastic news, obviously. How do you feel being, I don't know, for want of a better word, put back out into the world? Do you feel like you've got that support there? You've obviously got a great community around you. Does it feel a bit scary? Like, how do you feel about the scans coming up? It must be difficult to. Does it feel difficult to trust your body sometimes? Like, what is that? Is that normal? How does that feel?
Yeah, definitely. So like at first, after they said like you're Ned, that's it. I was like, what happens now?
Mm.
You know, like you just go back. I think I can't just go back to normal. I've just gone through 8 months of absolute chaos and scans, appointments, surgeries. I can't just jump back into normal life expecting everything now just to slot back in place and finish where I left off. Like, it doesn't happen like that. Like,
You are physically and mentally a different person to when this
yeah,
began, right?
100%. I've lost half my organs in my body. I'm still ain't the same person. Like, do you know what I mean? And then I think like the first step was getting back to work, which I've been trying and trying for months and months to get back. But obviously they were like, no. So obviously I started going back to work really slowly. And I just didn't think that would make me tired. And oh my God, I'd do an hour at work and I'd go home for a 3 hour nap. It was so exhausting. But everyone's like, but you have just had 8 months off going through really intensive stuff. I said, I know, but I'm back to normal now. Why can't I just go straight back to do everything I used to do? And the biggest change that I found, obviously being a cadet instructor, we were physically fit. You'd run around with weapons and bergens on your back, jumping off cliffs. I really struggle now, like the pains in my legs. If it gets cold, that's it. Like I'm rolled off because me joints are just wrecked now, which means I can still teach it, I can still do all the stuff, but I feel like I'm an old granny, and like I'm the one that's over 70 that's having to take a seat and let the young ones join in. But mentally, I'm like 20 still, and I'm still fit as a fiddle, and it's just me having to say, Emma, not everyone here has just gone through what you've gone through in this last year. Obviously, they're all gonna be fitter than you. That's normal. But I get so angry at myself, and everyone's like, it'll just take time. Like, gradually just start building yourself back up to what you were, which is what I'm doing. But I'm like impatient, and I'm like, no, I want to be back doing that right now, this second. But that is really one of the biggest things I struggled with, was everyone sort of expected, right? Well, that's it. You finish treatment, you haven't got cancer, you're back to normal, but you're not. Like, you're really not. Like, and you see the menopause side effects. No one even thinks about that. No one thinks about the joint pain you have, or the anxiety and fear before you scan. And I think it was the other month. I think I had a headache for 3 days, and I know exactly it was because we just got a puppy, and we were getting up really, really early in the morning, going to bed late because we were constantly looking after this puppy. And I knew it was because I was tired and I probably wasn't drinking enough. But in my head, I diagnosed myself with a brain tumor because you get headaches. And I was like, and then I thought, hey, I've got a lump on my ankle. It wasn't, but I thought, oh my God, that's going to be now bone cancer. And I think I've got really health anxiety. As soon as I think, oh my God, that's it, like, I'm now going to be now diagnosed with something else and something else. And everyone's like, it's not healthy to live like that. And I'm like, I know. And 100% I know it's not healthy to live like that. But when you think, I never thought that giant cyst that I looked 9 months pregnant was cancer. So why do I now not think this tiny little lump on me head is going to be cancer? Do you know what I mean? I just got in such a rut. I was like, I can't. What if I'm going to die? And even now, like, sometimes I'll probably have a couple of, like, probably like a night a month where I'll just be crying, and my boyfriend's like, why are you crying? I'm like, what if I die? And he's like, well, you're not going to die. Why do you think this? I'm like, because I've had a headache for 3 days. And he was like, because you've been getting up at 5:30 in the morning and not going to bed at 11 at night because you're looking after your puppy. I was like, yeah, but what if this is like a brain tumor? It's a sign. And he's like, just stop being silly. And I'm like, I know I'm being silly, but I need to just feel how I'm feeling to get it out of my system. And then now the next day I'm fine again. So that I do struggle with that, because I just think every little bump, bruise, lump, that's it. I've diagnosed myself with cancer again, which I know it's stupid because everyone always says give it 2 weeks. If it's still there by then, yes, then go and get checked. And it doesn't only ever last like a day, but that's just my brain just playing tricks on me now.
But it's a defense mechanism, isn't it? Your baseline, your inherent baseline for what's normal is off because you've had something so abnormal happen to you.
Yeah.
So it's totally understandable, but doesn't make it any, even if you can rationalize it after the moment, I can't imagine make it any easier in that moment. That's not.
No.
Yeah. How do you feel? So you've been writing, and you mentioned this earlier from the beginning. You started with a Facebook blog, and you're obviously active on Instagram and TikTok as well. I don't know if you want to pause there and quick do a shout out to where people can find you. Actually, that might be a
Yes, get me to some TikTok followings.
There you go.
So my Facebook's my battle against ovarian cancer. My TikTok account is Emma Colledge 2, and my Instagram account is Emma Colledge.
College, Colledge.
Yes.
I'm glad I got that right. We would have had to edit that. So that's fantastic. You started at the beginning, and I'd like to ask how that helped you through everything you've been through and beyond. Like, what's the plan moving forwards with that? How are you using those platforms to help yourself and others?
So at first, my friend literally suggested it just to keep me busy and to keep us from down that rabbit hole of Googling everything. And to be fair, she is an absolute lifesaver, because I wouldn't have ever thought of doing that. And I never ever thought anyone would be interested. And to be fair, she even said, it was a couple of months ago, she went, Emma, I didn't even know if it was going to lift off or not. She went, I literally did it to keep you busy.
What a
and
good
I said,
friend.
well, fair play to you, Ellie, because you've done a 10 out of 10 job. Love you. Like, you've sorted everything. And it was literally, I think it was in the first couple of days, the Facebook group was on over 1,000 followers. And I was like, wow, like, people really are really actually intrigued. And I genuinely think it is because no one's aware of the symptoms of it. And obviously, everyone has a different story with cancer, no matter what. But I think with me still being so physically fit and fine and healthy, but yet being so poorly on the inside without us
Mm.
even knowing, like that side of it, like I wasn't building up when I was like, oh my God, I'm really ill, because I wasn't. And I think everyone was really intrigued of what was going on. And I had a lot of people like I used to work with was like, oh my God, like you've helped me through life situations and you're 22 years old. Like normally it's people like a 50 year that are helping us. She went, but you're a 22-year-old and you're helping me get through my life if I've ever down day and stuff. So obviously just started on Facebook and I was like, that's my thing. Like all my family's on the page, they can edit it as and when I'm in surgery and if I can't be bothered. And I set up a TikTok account. In the first video I posted, like went viral, I got like 200 mil. And then they took my account down and I couldn't get it back. And I was raging. I was like, are you kidding me? I could have been famous. Da, 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 da. So I was like, right, it's just another blip. We'll start again. I use my personal TikTok. I'm still making this awareness. And it's getting up there. I have some videos have done really, really well. But I also found loads of other people suffering from
Mm.
ovarian cancer that are also so young on TikTok. So now we're all like, I don't know, we always like comment on each other's stuff. Like even other girls that are going through cancer and like having the wigs on, having wigs off, and like even talking about hair and how you fake tan when you're bald and stuff. Just light-hearted comedy,
Mm.
but really, people want to know that stuff. Like, how do you fake tan your head when you're bald? Like, do you just stop at your hairline or do you go, well, like stuff that you don't ever think
Yeah.
about until you're in that situation? So that's how my TikTok started, and I just created loads of friends and loads of other women. Like I followed your story since day one. It's so good to like see you now living your life again. It's really nice community on TikTok. And my Instagram, to be fair, I don't post as much on my Instagram. I always just share my stories, like on my Instagram stories. But even then, like loads of people are seeing them and resharing them. So even if I just reshare it once, 3 or 4 of my friends will then go on and reshare it. So then that's getting out to their friends and their family. So it's still just getting out there. Like, and if it wasn't for like, because it's really exciting news that's happened, if it wasn't for my TikToks and Instagram and Facebook, so Coronation Street are doing a storyline on ovarian cancer, and they asked Ovarian Cancer Action if they could mirror my story. So
Wow.
that's through me sharing my story. Now they're mirroring that onto Coronation Street, which is such a big thing for ovarian cancer because
Yeah.
how many people watch Coronation Street is absolutely ridiculous.
Wow. Are they? I hope they're going to name drop you, or at least you get like a
But
extra cameo in the back.
well, this is what I said. So a
Yeah.
news report is going out on Sunday
Wow.
to say like Toya's story and my story, how similar they are. So I'm hoping because I asked them if I could go down and see them all.
Yeah,
So I'm waiting
absolutely.
for that email to be like, let's come down.
That is so
But
cool.
it's crazy.
And that's just the power of the good that the
Hmm.
internet can produce, right? That is you just being
Yeah.
open and
Hmm.
honest and sharing that story. And now it's reached that many people, but it's going to be on national TV to a
Yeah.
national audience with you
Hmm.
waving in the background.
Hello.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's
it's
incredible.
mad.
Oh, well, so that's what's next is soap stardom then is
Uh-huh.
that's brilliant. Are you going to continue just sharing and just continue your story and the advocacy and the awareness that is touching so many lives?
Yeah, like I literally have had another 3 news reporters ring just today wanting to share my story. One of them was the national press. Um, that again was through my sister signing me up to stupid stuff saying she wants to see me on this morning. But that's if even if I don't get on this morning and I'm raising that phone call,
Mm,
it's getting published. That's another billion people now knowing ovarian cancer symptoms. Like just takes one news report to go viral,
absolutely.
everyone to know about it. And that's
Absolutely.
my aim is I want every single, preferably young person to know
Hmm.
the symptoms, but even the older people, everyone should just know the symptoms and they should know their body.
That's exactly it. Know the symptoms when you're young, and then when you're
Hmm.
higher risk when you're older. If you haven't, obviously, we hope, been affected by it,
Hmm.
whenever, if ever, you know them anyway. Just a lifelong skill,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
Emma, that's
definitely.
incredible. And anything we can do, and I'm sure Ovarian Cancer Action, I'm sure Teenage Cancer Trust, and I'm sure loads of other charities and organisations, whatever we can do to help, we would absolutely love that. I could absolutely talk to you all day and hear your story. It's so enthralling, you're so passionate about it, and you speak so clearly and viscerally about it. So thank you. Although we do have to cut these podcasts short at some point. So if you don't mind, we ask all of our guests 5 questions, and I'll quick fire them at you. And just off the top of your head answers, please.
Okay.
So what advice would you give to someone who's worried they might have cancer?
If it lasts longer than 2 weeks, go and see your doctor regardless. Like, hound your doctors if you believe that there's something wrong. You should know your body. Just hound them.
Brilliant. And if they tell you you're too young?
Ignore them. Keep going back and keep going back and keep going back.
Absolutely. And you can always get a second opinion. You can always ask for someone to come in with you as a doctor's appointment as well, which is really key. But great advice. What was the most impactful thing someone did for you after your diagnosis?
Oh, loads of people have done everything for us, but I think it was just everyone just being so kind and caring and supportive. Like, not that they wouldn't be, but I think a lot of people that have come out the woodwork and thought, I follow you, but in the distance, but you're always on my mind. And that just makes me feel like proud, like I've made an impact. More people know about what's going on.
Love it. It's lovely to feel that community around you during those times. What's the worst thing someone has said to you about having cancer?
It was when my hair started growing back and I went back to work. Granted, this person did not know what I'd been through, so I wouldn't expect him to know. But it's one of them things where you just don't say it to someone. And they said to us, oh my God, who's cut your hair? And I was just like, no one. I had cancer. And I made them feel shit, to be fair, because I thought, no, like, it's a real life thing. It happens. Here I am back to work and you just gonna make a stupid comment, like, and I'm gonna make you feel shit for the rest of your day. And he just went, I didn't know. And I said, well, don't say it next time. Like, if you don't know someone's situation, don't go saying stupid comments.
Yes, a mistake you would hope only made once. If in doubt, don't say something stupid. Yeah. Absolutely. What advice would you give to someone recently diagnosed with cancer?
As hard as it is at the minute, it honestly does get better. Do you need to try and keep positive? Don't go down a rabbit hole. Don't go Googling stuff. Do something that's going to take your mind off thinking about what is physically going on with you, because it'll be such a game changer for you.
Absolutely real. We do hear the don't Google it rabbit hole quite often.
Yeah.
And lastly, what is the biggest lesson you've learned from having cancer?
Life's too short. Don't wait around for stuff. Like, you never ever know what's going to happen in your life. You don't know what could happen tomorrow. Live the life to the fullest. Enjoy every single minute and just make loads of memories.
What a perfect way to end a podcast. Emma, thank you so much. Thank you for everything you're doing. Thank you for all your words today and everything you've shared with us. And we look forward to supporting you in the future.
Thank you.
Cheers. Thank you for listening, and thank you to our amazing supporters and funders who make this podcast happen. If you enjoyed this episode, please give us a review and follow us on social media at Thrive Against Cancer. And be sure to check out our other episodes wherever you listen to your podcasts and on YouTube. If you want to help support our mission to give a voice to the cancer community, please contact us or visit our website to learn more at thriveagainstcancer.co.uk.